This is Shai Desai from Learning Plan. Welcome to today's webinar on turning your PowerPoint presentation into an immersive, engaging e-learning Captivate experience. Over the next 45 minutes, we're going to be going through this topic in more detail. I just thought I'd take a couple of minutes just to introduce myself and the team here. On the webinar, we have obviously myself, we have John Steriker, who I'll introduce momentarily, who will be leading most of the webinar discussion. And we also have our community manager, Gretel Sladen, with us, who'll be monitoring the questions that you put up and getting back to you either as a group question or individually. We are scheduled, as I said, to go for around 45 minutes. We do have around 75 people joining us from across Australia and New Zealand. So there is bound to be a few questions. If you cannot hear us, or if you encourage an experience or see an experience where you can't get through to us, please just message us if you can, or send an email to team@learningplan.com.au and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. So without further ado, let me get underway. As a quick background to those that don't know Learning Plan, we are a learning consultancy that's been we're established for about 7 years now. Over the past 6 years, we've been fortunate to be recognised with a number of learning awards, and this year that was capped with us winning a record 10 LearnX awards in Australia and New Zealand. The variety of work that we do covers everything from designing a learning strategy to executing on digital assets and digital campaigns. And on the screen, you'll see a number of areas in which we've been involved with clients such as ADMA, Transport for New South Wales, Samsung, and Woolworths. What we're trying to do through this series of webinars, this is our fourth webinar today, this fourth webinar this year, is basically extend out some of the work we started earlier in the year with our partnership with Adobe. We ran a series of roadshow events, some of which you've attended, and we're now launching a series of services around Captivate to support the wider learning community. Through this, you'll see a link on your screen, ideally, that should say link to a meetup group and community. This outlines the events that we have coming up, including the webinars. Joining us on this webinar today, we have John Steriker, who's our certified instructor. We've started running both public and private courses on webinar, offering coaching and support. And we're offering also, I guess, an ongoing community so that we can support people that are facing individual challenges with Captivate. From our website, we've just captured a screenshot here that outlines our Captivate Foundations course. This is a 2-day course. It's geared towards people that are new to Captivate or new to e-learning and want to understand how the Captivate tool works. From that link, you can also get an access to a 30-day free trial of Captivate and access to John if you have any initial questions. Also on the website, you'll find a number of learning resources. And these resources include our latest blogs on Adobe Captivate, tips and tools and tricks that we've used, along with previous webinar recordings. So if you haven't been to one of these before, want to see what we've done in the past, just jump onto learningplan.com.au and head over to the resources page and you'll find this information. So without further ado, let me get into today's presentation and introduce John. So John Steriker has over 20 years of workplace learning experience. He's a certified Adobe Captivate trainer and expert. He has been responsible for training some of Australia's largest companies on how to use Captivate better. And today we're going through the topic of how to turn a linear PowerPoint presentation into an immersive, interactive Adobe Captivate project. Without further ado, here's John.
Hi everybody, thanks for that, Shai. I'll just turn my webcam on and you can say hello, hopefully you can see me. And I will share my screen and we'll get straight into it. So today, as we mentioned a few times already, we are going to take a PowerPoint presentation that has been developed either by yourself or by someone else, and we're going to make it interactive. So in other words, instead of having your click next, click next, click next, we're going to include some smarts that will provide people with a branching option and allow people to explore the the presentation or the module according to their own desires or depending on whichever section they want to go through first. So I'll show you the actual presentation that we're going to be converting first. So it's just a stock standard PowerPoint presentation. You'll see here we've got a title slide, we've got an outline or a menu slide, and you'll see here that each of the menu items, in this particular example, the evolution of workplace learning, brief history of learning at work, etc. And then you'll see that there are sections related to that particular learning. Now, what we are going to do in Captivate, and you could do this in PowerPoint, there are ways of doing this in PowerPoint, but Captivate obviously will allow you to upload this to a SCORM file or upload the SCORM file to an LMS. You can also include quizzes in Captivate as well. And there are a couple of other smarts that we're going to include in the Captivate file, which will add a few extra bells and whistles. I'll also show you as well, I'm just going to put this particular presentation in presentation mode, and you'll see that there are actually some animations. So you'll see that the title comes zooming in, and the menu is building. And of course, these are all animations that are quite easily achievable in PowerPoint. So for those of us who have been working with PowerPoint for a while, probably are aware on how to achieve these animations. We've added some drawing arrows in the presentation here around a diagram. And this particular example that's coming up, you'll see that the notepad is sort of writing point by point. And these are all animations that are actually done in PowerPoint. So the purpose of today, as well as creating the interactive Captivate file, will also show that we can maintain the animations as well. What I will now also show you is actually the end results in a web page of the actual Captivate file that we'll be creating. So this is an HTML5 version. I'll just start it back at the beginning. You'll see that the animation of the title was maintained. The animation of the outline and the menu has been maintained as well. But it's at this particular point of the menu where we are now giving the user, the end user, the option to visit any of those sections in any order. So for example, instead of starting at the beginning and just working their way through in a linear fashion, they might decide that they want to visit the third section first. So we'll click on that third menu item. It takes them straight to that section, takes them through the content. We might have a quiz here, or we might have a knowledge check question, which tests people on what they've just read or what they've just learnt. And then once they've finished that, it takes, we've got the option here of allowing the user to navigate back to the main menu, but you'll now notice what's happened is a little green tick has appeared to show them that they have actually completed that section. I will also point out that the menu item or the link is actually now disabled, so they can't actually go back to that section. Now, we have the ability of turning that on or off. If we want to give people the option to go back into that section if they want, they can. But in this particular example, I've just turned that off. So now they might go to section 1, for example. So we click on section 1, takes them through. You'll see once again the animations have been maintained. There's a number appearing up here in the top right-hand corner. I'll explain what that's for in a moment. That's a little bit of a testing number, which is giving us some things to work with. But I'm now going to click back to the menu, and you'll now notice that I've got 2 ticks, and they are representing which sections have been completed. And you'll notice now that I can't click on section 1. So I've only got section 2 and 4 to go. So that's basically what we're going to achieve today. all in the space of a healthy 49 minutes. So my time starts now. I'm going to close this PowerPoint presentation down. I'll leave this open. I'll come back to that. Now in Captivate, I'm going to create a brand new presentation, and I'm going to create it from PowerPoint. Good question. Now, Michael, the green tick triggered by a storm. I know it's triggered by a much more powerful force, and I cannot give away the magic right now. You just have to hang in there and watch and learn and be amazed. Hopefully you'll be amazed, but we will get to that in a moment. So thanks for your question, Michael. Just hold that thought. Hopefully we'll answer it soon. So I'm going to create the Captivate file from PowerPoint. Create. I obviously go and find that PowerPoint file. Here we go. Now, I have noticed, for those of you who've worked with Captivate on and off over the years, you may notice that it can be a little bit temperamental. I noticed just recently I tried to do something in Captivate, or tried to import a PowerPoint, and this option, high fidelity, was not available. That box was not available for me to tick, and it's always there. So what I did is I just shut down PowerPoint, and I shut down Captivate. I made sure PowerPoint was closed as well. I restarted Captivate, tried to do went through the same step again, and then that option was available. So if there's something that seems a little bit amiss with Captivate, or and you may have had it open for a little while throughout the day, close it down, give it a little bit of a rest, and then reopen it again. Now, what high fidelity allows you to do with this particular option is it allows you to maintain those animations. So ticking the box high fidelity will maintain the animations. Clicking the box linked creates a permanent link between the PowerPoint file and the Captivate file. So this is perfect if you are maintaining the information in PowerPoint, or someone else might be maintaining the information in PowerPoint. So if the PowerPoint presentation is updated, then you can very easily update the Captivate file just by clicking one little button, and I'll show you how that works as well. Slide duration is a good one. You may have some of the PowerPoint slides going for, say, 8 seconds after all the animations are carried out. So you want to maintain the slide duration as it is in PowerPoint. You want to maintain that slide duration in Captivate. Now, what I'm also going to do, you've got the option here, Advanced Slide on mouse click. I'm going to turn that off, because what that does is it puts a click box on every slide, and that click box is actually the size of the slide. I'm going to just put automatically. What that does is it doesn't put a click box in there, and it gives us a little bit more control over how we actually progress or navigate through the module. Everything else is good. You can choose to include or not include the slides from the PowerPoint. I usually leave most of these on. And we do have the option of hiding those slides in Captivate. So just be mindful of time. I need to get a move on. We've got lots to cover. So this can take a little while. Don't get too concerned if it seems like it has hung or it has just frozen. Sometimes you might even get a little message coming up in PowerPoint. I'm not clicking anywhere, by the way. It may have not responding appearing. Just be patient. Maybe go and grab a cup of tea or some lunch. Give it a couple of moments. The bigger the presentation, obviously, the longer that this process takes. It is still going through the rigmarole of bringing that PowerPoint into Captivate. You'll see here there's a little progress timer as well. And you'll also notice what it has done is it's actually opened up PowerPoint. It's opened up that particular presentation. Try not to do too much. You'll see there's another presentation here where it's sort of going through the steps, and working itself through the slides. But just the main thing is just to keep an eye on the progress bar here. As I said, it may look like it has stopped and it's not actually doing anything, but please be patient because it will, I was going to say it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. It does actually happen, and it doesn't take overnight. So unless you're doing it at 11:55 p.m. at night, it may finish at 12:01 a.m., which then theoretically it has happened overnight. But here, just trying to fill in time. Look at that, there's a progress bar. It's moving itself along. For those of you who have done this before, you probably have experienced how long it takes to happen, but we do need to be a little bit patient. Here we go, something's happening. It's moving a little bit quicker now. PowerPoint's closed. You can probably see 59. There we go, look at that, something's happening. I'm getting very excited now, and we can, that opens up once again, closes. So you see it does some pretty crazy stuff. I probably wouldn't do too much with the computer at that stage. As I said, go and grab a cup of tea or lunch, or depending on what time of the day it is, a coffee, and then come back and hopefully it will all be ready to go. But this is pretty much about the normal amount of time it takes to do that, and I could probably count down 5, 4, 3, something's happening, 2, 1, adding slides to projects, and I'm sort of running out of filler things to say. Look, we didn't want to sort of pre-do anything. We wanted to do this live. We wanted to see you experience this. But once again, as those of you who have done this before, I will actually just bring you to the outline. So this mud map here shows you pretty much what we're trying to achieve. So we've got a title slide from the PowerPoint presentation. Then we've got a menu slide, and the user has the option of being able to go down one path and then back to the menu slide. Then they can choose another path, back to the menu slide, then another path. And then once they've finished those paths, they can then go around those sections, and then all of a sudden they find themselves towards the end. You could put a summary slide in there with a score, and then you could put an end or a finish or more information. So this is sort of a bit of a mud map as to a helicopter view as to what the presentation looks like. And look at that, here we are. Lo and behold, we now have our PowerPoint inside Captivate. Just going to give it a quick preview. So I'll preview in the browser. You'll notice that it's full HTML5, which is great. Opens up in the browser. There's the animation. You'll see that all the animations have been maintained. Might look a little bit jumpy on the webinar. That's just the lag, obviously, of the video going through. But yeah, it looks pretty good. So we're pretty happy with that. All those animations have been maintained. But now we want to put in the interactivity. So let's go. First of all, what I like to do is, especially with large presentations or large projects with sections, I like to do a bit of grouping. Now, those of you who haven't done grouping before, I'm just going to point something out. Grouping is very helpful in two particular situations. First of all, if you use the table of contents, or if you like the table of contents to be displayed, I'll just make this a little bit bigger. You'll notice that you can get the table of contents appearing. And the nice thing also here is if you set up your PowerPoint correctly with the proper PowerPoint layouts, and you put a title in the title placeholder of PowerPoint, you'll notice that it has been maintained and brought across. So you'll see that the PowerPoint titles have been imported as well, and you'll see that you've got the PowerPoint titles appearing here. Now, grouping will create these submenus within your table of contents. So let's have a quick look and see how this works. So here's one section here. You'll notice that we've got a section over here, and this particular section is around the evolution of workplace learning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab the title of that slide. I've actually just copied that because I don't like typing. I've copied that, and I'm going to select these 3 slides over in my film strip. I'm going to right mouse click on those 3 slides because they're all part of the one section, and I've now got the option of group and create group. And that group can be given a title itself. I'm just going to paste that that text that I copied. Because of PowerPoint, you might get the odd little random thing coming here. You can just go in and delete that, and you'll notice that disappears. So it's like a random little half space, half thing. Now, you'll notice over here, I've now got the group. So I can open that group, and I can group, I can expand or ungroup. But if I go back into my table of contents, and if I refresh or reset the table of contents, you'll now notice that I've got this group here. So the group has been maintained in the table of contents, and we'll come back and have a look at that in a little bit more detail as we go. I'm going to do another group here. Grouping's good because it can help you manage your timeline a little bit better. So I'm just going to do this exactly what I did just then. I'm going to create a group out of this section. That's a really, really excellent question from Craig. Craig, excellent question. You know what? I'll be completely honest with you. I haven't tried. Your Pepsi challenge, Craig, is to experiment with that and let me know, because I'm not sure, to be completely honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if it does, and sections in PowerPoint are an excellent feature of PowerPoint, and they do pretty much a very similar thing in Captivate. So thanks for your question, Craig. You'll now notice that I've got another group. I'm going to do another group here. As I said, the reason I like to create these groups, it's more for the management of the timeline, especially when you've got a big presentation or a big module. I don't know about you, but I've worked on some projects that can be sort of 100, 150 slides, and if you've got it in groups, it can be very helpful just for your own sanity. So I'm just going to create a quick group again here. Okay, there's another random little, there we go, just up here, just delete, it's invisible in the slide properties. Oops, there we go. But it is there. Okay, I'll worry about that later. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is we want to go in and we want to create the menu links or the links from the outline to each section. Now this can be done just with a good old shape. So I'm just going to draw a shape over the first menu item. And of course, those of you who've worked with shapes in Captivate, you are probably familiar with the fact that you can turn the shape or use it as a button. So I'm going to tick this box here, use as button. I'm actually going to make the shape invisible. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this shape. I'll repeat, name this shape. At the moment, this particular shape here, which is going to be our first menu item, is going by the name of SmartShape_1. Now, when you start having lots of objects and shapes and buttons and all sorts of things in your project, and we're going to dive into some advanced actions shortly, if you don't name your shapes, you can get lost. For those of you who have kids, I'm sure you've named your kids. It makes it a lot easier to find them in the park because you can yell out your kid's name and they'll come running. But if everyone had kid 1, kid 2, then you wouldn't be able to find your kid. So same sort of thing. I'm going to name this shape. And the name of this first shape, and I'm just going to name it up in properties, I'm going to call it SS_BTN _01. Now you can call your shapes whatever you like. You can call it Fred or Harry or whatever. SS stands for Smart Shape, BTN button 01 for obvious reasons. And that makes it a lot easier to find and reference when you are trying to reference this particular shape in your advanced actions, which we're going to dive into shortly. What we're also going to do, because we've used this as a button, we can maintain, or we can create like a hover state. So when the user hovers over the button, you'll see how we get this outline, which is pretty cool. When they click down, you'll see how it goes into a broken line. We can do all of that here. So while the shape is selected, I'm going to go into what's called state view. So click on state view, and so I've got the normal view. Because it's a button, it automatically gets a rollover state. So I'll click on rollover over on the left, and I'm going to give it a stroke of 1. And then even down, I can give it a stroke, and I'll just make this a broken stroke. And I'm going to exit that. Last but not least, and these are all sort of habits that are good to get into early, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn this particular formatting of this particular object or type of object into a style. And of course, if we make changes to that particular style later on, or this particular menu item, or object, or shape, whatever you want to call it, it'll make it a lot easier to update the similar objects if we decided that we wanted to do a thicker outline or change the color or anything like that. So what I'm going to do, while I've still got that shape selected, I'm going to click on this little menu just over in the properties panel next to style name. I'm going to create a new style, and I'm going to call this menu button. And then click on OK. And that will update now, and hopefully everything will have been maintained. We can do a quick little preview of this rollover to see if it works. Let's have a quick look. There we go. Hang on. Now, just quickly, I wanted to point out, I'm just going to double check the state views. Sometimes state views can lose, yeah, look at that. I've lost my state. That's okay. These things happen. I'm not going to put that down to a bug. I'm just going to put that down to something happening. But now, if I save that style, so save changes to existing style. Yes. Now here's a little bit of a trap. I'm going to go into preview quite a bit because you want to test things as you go, because if you wait a long time before you test your preview, it's harder to find where a particular problem may have occurred. So if you keep testing, you can pinpoint those problems sooner rather than later. So you'll notice we've got the preview in the timeline. So I can just press the play button there, and you'll notice that what happens there is it goes through the animation. But the problem here is you'll notice that the pause state of this particular button actually stops right there. So it's not going to go past that part of the slide, and that could cause problems later on. So let's move this sort of down here. I'm just going to move it towards the end. So ultimately what's going to happen is when it hits there, it's going to stop, and that's perfect. Okay, now to quickly move this along, I'm actually going to, I'll just do a quick check of this. I like to do the HTML5 preview, even though it can take a little while to get going, but here we go. Everything, there's our group in the table of contents. Here we go, this is great. Okay, it's stopped, and there's our rollover, which is awesome. Okay, so that's all working well. A couple of other things for those of you who've used shapes as buttons. Hand cursor is good, especially if it's on a web page, and good old disable click sound. Don't you love that click sound? Gotta love a click sound. I'm just going to save this quickly. Now, Quickly moving this along, let's have a look at this. So I want to create the same menu or the same shape button for each menu item. Here's a shortcut key of the day, and I believe it might be on our wonderful mouse mat. If you want one of these, call up before 12 o'clock, and we'll send you out a free mouse mat, Captivate mouse mat with some shortcut keys on it. Now, if it's not on here, we'll get it updated, but there is a magic shortcut key which does actually work in PowerPoint as well, and other fantastic programs out there. If you're on a Windows machine, Control D for duplicate, and you'll notice all of a sudden I have a brand new object. It's maintained the naming convention, but it hasn't put O2, it's just put 2. I like to put a 0 in there, because if you don't, and then if you end up with, say, 15 objects, or with the sort of the numbering, it'll go 1, 10, 11, 12, 13, blah, 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 19 to 20. So by putting the 0 in front, you get 01, 02, 09, 10, etc. So it's just a bit of forward thinking. If you're doing any numbering, I would put a leading 0 in there. That's a good idea. Okay, Control D. If you're on a Mac, Command D will work. So Control D again. There's another one. Just throw a 0 in front of that 3, and Control D one more time. Okay, so once again, remembering that the timeline, the placement of the pause button on those objects in the timeline is very important, and it's happening towards the end of the animation. Great. Now, I do also like to do a bit of a 2 seconds, Andrew. I'm just going to, because I tend to forget what I was talking about if I get interrupted. So 2 seconds. What I do also like to do is make everything nice and neat and tidy. Good old, my favorite feature in any program is the align feature. So select all of your objects, make them all nice and neatly line up. You can also distribute them so there's an even space between them, etc. And that makes it all nice and neat. Andrew, did that duplicate it to the same position? Good question. So I'll just quickly show you. So Control D, what that does is it sort of does a very similar thing. Control D will just place it down and across a couple of pixels. So because it's an invisible shape, we can't really see it. But if we had an outline there, then we'd be able to see exactly what it does. But it's around the same position. So select all. Not sure, Craig, what you mean by select all. You could do Control A for select all. You mean like that? I just did a Control A. The problem with Control A is that if you had other things on the slide as well, then it would select everything. So I was just wanting to be specific about those particular shapes. And you can also use the timeline, clicking on the first object in the timeline, holding the Shift key down and clicking on that last object. So I'm selecting the objects in the timeline there. Okay, moving along. Now, obviously what we want to do is we want each of these menu items to go to their respective sections. So this is very easy. You've probably done this before. So selecting the first shape, button 1, in our properties panel, actions, we want to go to the next slide. Sorry, Craig, I'll get to you in a moment. We'll just flag that question if that's okay. I want to jump to slide, and I'm going to jump to the evolution of workplace learning section. Button number 2, I want to jump to slide, and obviously we're going to take this to brief history of learning at work. Very handy to have your slides named. or the slide properties or the title updated, because this, trying to do this and they're not named makes it really hard. So this one goes to now, so you see the word now there. So just being able to reference the slide title is an awesome, awesome little feature. Okay, bring back the good stuff. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to have a quick test again. So HTML5 preview. Craig, I just meant so we could see where the new object was in relation to the original. Okay. Okay, I see what you mean. I see. Okay, I could actually do that. Now, if you look, I hover my mouse over the buttons. If I click on now, it takes me straight to that section. Great. It'll move me on to the end of that section, which is here. But the problem is now it just keeps going. So what we want to do is we obviously want to put something on this slide to then take us back to the menu. Okay, so that's the next thing we need to do. And yes, Craig, if you just watch this carefully. So what I'll do is I'll select that first shape, Control D, and you'll now notice that if I select those two, you'll see how they're placed in relation to each other. So the white one was the one I selected, and then the black one was the one that was duplicated. So I'll just delete that. Yes, good point. Good tip there. Craig, you get a gold star, and you get a free mouse map. So just leave your details with us, and we'll send it out to you. Okay, now, here's where the fun begins. Has everyone got their seatbelt on? Great, because, this button will take us to this slide, and then we move through the slide, and then we get here, and we want to get back to the menu. So quite easily, I'm going to just put in anything, just similar to what I had before. And we want to use this as a button. I'm going to go into actions, take hand cursor, do all of that normal stuff. Don't forget, create a new style. And I'll take that off first, because new styles, I'll come back to that, create a new style. A bit weird sometimes. I've noticed that before. All of these are grayed out. We'll get back to that. Have no fear. Now, we want this button to take us back to outline. Okay. Now, the problem with this is when it goes back to outline, we want to be able to trigger an indicator that says you've done that section. And at the moment, that is not happening. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the tick. So I'm just going to insert an image here. There it is, ready to go. Look at that. Very clever. And here comes the tick. There. I'm just going to place it next to that menu item, and I am going to name the tick. At the moment, it says image 1. I don't want that because I'm going to reference this later. So I'm going to give it a name, and I'm actually going to call it img tick 1, because then I know it's an image. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that image, because I don't want that image to be visible when I come into the slides. I'm just going to hide that, and you can do that by just clicking on the little eye tool up in the properties panel, and I'm going to bring the timeline of the tick down to the end of the timeline after all of the animations have happened, because I don't want the tick to appear there, or I don't want it to appear there. I want it to appear about there. So once we trigger it to come on, it will appear when it's meant to appear in the timeline. Okay, now to make all of this fun stuff work, what we need to do is we need to call on some variables and some advanced actions. So those of you who haven't done variables and advanced actions at all in Captivate. This is hopefully going to be a good introduction to it. For those of you who have done variables and advanced actions, this might give you some extra ideas on how you could use them. So here's the logic. What we want to do is we're going to create a variable. So let's do that right now. And the variable is going to be called section 1, which is related to the first section of our presentation. And I'm going to give that a value of 0, and I'm going to save that. So I'm going to close that down. Now, right now, that variable has, or that word section 1 has a value of 0. What I'm going to do is this button at the end of section 1, when I click on it, I'm going to tell that button to give that variable a value of 1. So I'm going to change the value from 0 to 1. And then I'm going to, on this slide, I'm going to say, if section 1 has a value of 1, then display the tick. Pretty straightforward. So I'll run through that again. We've got a variable. It's just like it's a name and there's a value. So for example, my name is, the variable for me is name and the value is John. Now, if that value gets changed to Shy, then I'm no longer John. I'm Shy. And Shy's nodding. Not that that would ever happen. But section 1, do you have to use numbers or are there true, false variables? Oh, look, good question. I could put section 1 equals blue. I could actually say blue there, and then alter the actual the trick in this is not what type of value it is. It's the actual value itself. So it could be cup, could be XX. So the original value is XX, for example, and then when I click on this button, I then make the variable Z. So when I come into this slide, I say, if the value of section 1 is Z, then show the tick. So Craig, good question. You can pretty much use whatever you want. I'm just going to change that back to 0. It could be anything. So you're just changing the value to trigger something else happening. Now, just to get us all prepared for later, I'm going to create variables for the other sections. So I'm just going to select in there. As I told you before, I don't like typing. So I'm going to copy that, Control-C, add a new variable, make that 0 as well, save, add new, another one for section 3, value, save, add new, and another one for section 4, and make that 0 as well. So these variables, which will trigger the section value, which in turn will decide whether the tick is on or off. Okay, so all good, just easy to maintain if you use true, false instead of magic numbers or words, but it looks like Captivate doesn't have booleans. Yes and no. If you've got programming experience from before and you're used to working in a particular way, by all means feel free to use anything that you like. You could say false here, or the word false, and then clicking on the arrow would then change the value of that variable to true. So, so it's really just what the value is. It's not about the actual type of value. It's just what it actually is. So hopefully that helps to clarify. So I guess the flexibility of it could be anything that you like. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is let's see if we can get this working. So I'm going to go back to the section which has the arrow on it, and I'm going to click on the arrow here. And instead of just jumping to slide, I want to I want to actually execute what's called an advanced action. This is where you can start doing some really cool stuff. Advanced actions is really just a way of taking potentially any one of these actions that are in the actions menu, and instead of just doing one thing like pause, or instead of toggle, or instead of just doing one thing, you can actually use advanced actions to trigger a number of things happening all at the same time. So sometimes I like to think of advanced actions as executing multiple actions at the same time, which is sort of what we're going to do here. Now, we don't have any scripts in here at the moment, so I can actually just click on this little folder, and this will open up the advanced actions screen, or I can actually do it from the project menu as well. So clicking on the advanced action screen, here we go. So the first advanced action I'm going to create is I'm going to create this action called Section 1 Complete. Now, the way that we're going to give that variable a value of 1 as opposed to 0 is right here. So when we click on this black arrow, what we want to do is we want to assign section 1. So there's our variable. So you'll notice if I go back here, actually I'll just delete that because I just want to point this out very quickly. If I double click here, assign. Now if you look closely in the column next to it, it does actually, just quickly, just might have missed it, but it says select variable. So this drop-down menu is a list of all of the variables that come with Captivate, or the ones that we've created. So this is why it's a good idea to have your variables set up beforehand. You could set them up on the fly. There's a variables button here to take you into the variables screen, and you'll notice that that drop-down menu now asks you to select the variable. So we're going to assign the variable section 1 with a literal value of 1, like so. Now I could put dog in there if I wanted to. And I will. I'm going to leave it as dog just to show the versatility of this. Not only do we want to assign that variable with a particular value, we also then want to jump. And by the way, all I'm doing there, it can be a little bit tricky. It's always been a bit tricky. You just double click, and then that will allow you to select the actions for the next line. So I'm going to jump to slide. Now, remember I was talking before about the leading zeros and so forth. This is where if you don't put zeros in, it goes from 1 to 10, and then it goes 2, 20, etc. So that's why I like to put in leading zeros. But we're looking for the outline slide, which is slide 2. Jump to slide 2. Excellent. So save as action. Automatically updated. And what I'm going to do here is just to show you how this works. This is a good little testing. Hopefully we don't run out of time. We may need to do a part 2. I was telling the guys earlier that we may need to do a part 2, but hopefully this will be enough to keep you started. I'm going to just put a little text box up here, and just to display the value of that variable. So what you can do is, while you've got your text cursor displaying, in the properties panel, we've got insert variable. And I'm just going to select section 1. So this text box will show the value of that variable. So let's have a look and see what happens. Are we ready? Everyone ready? Let's go. Okay. So we're just going to preview in HTML5. Blah, blah, blah. Go through the animations. Get to the outline. Now you'll notice there's a 0 over here. Oh, it's disappeared. That's okay. But hopefully you saw that 0. What I will need to do is I'll just need to show that shape, which has the text in it, for the rest of the slide. There we go. So next time we go through and have a look at that. Now I'm going to go to the evolution of workplace learning, which was the first one, work through. So that variable is still 0. Okay, so it's still 0. And you know what? I've actually forgotten to do something. So this is a common trap. I do it all the time. I actually haven't assigned the advanced action to that button. I've only created the advanced action. So if I click on that button, maybe I did. Did I assign it? Oh, it does that automatically. Did you see the word dog appear there? I surprise myself sometimes. Now, if we go back to Captivate, you'll see here if I select that that button, go under Actions, and there you go. That script has been assigned. So I'll just quickly run through that again, so because if you blink, you'll miss it. Just want to point out how you can do that testing of the variable values. So you can do some troubleshooting along the way. So there's that variable value of 0. If I click on the first menu item, I go through. Those of you, you'll probably all appreciate that you spend a lot of time previewing your presentation, which is okay. Now I'm going to click on this button. It'll take me back to that outline, but you'll now notice that the word dog appears there. So I've changed the value of that variable. Awesome. Okay, let's leave that as is. Now, we didn't get the tick appearing. So how are we going to get that to occur? So what we want to do is we want to check the value of the variable as we enter this slide. So in actual fact, what we're going to do is, staying on the slide properties, we're going to go into the actions for this slide. So some of you may not have seen this before, but you can make things happen when you enter a slide. So all of your normal actions are there when you enter a slide, and also when you exit a slide. And that exit means if that exit is happening naturally without you clicking on something else. But we're going to run an advanced action when we enter the slide. So let's have a look at this. So once again, execute advanced action. We've got our current action in there, but we're going to create a new one by clicking on advanced actions. And what I like to do here is create a new action, and I'm going to call this action set up menu. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to do a check of the variables. And this is actually a conditional action, because it's going to say if the variable is a particular value, then display the tick. Okay, so we're going to tick this little box that says conditional tab. And we've got these decision points up here. You can have quite a few of these. I actually don't know how many you can have, but you can have quite a few. And it's always a good idea to name them. So our first decision point is section 1. So what we're doing here is we're testing the completion of section 1. So I'll just call this decision point section 1. And you'll notice it's like turning a page of a book. So in section 1, it's a conditional tab. If all conditions are true, we're just going to have one condition in there. If the variable of section 1 is equal to dog, because that's what I changed it to before. Now the action that I want to complete or trigger is I want to show the tick. So there's image 1 tick. Okay. Now I can also disable that button or that link. So I could do that here. So this is where I've got the flexibility to turn things on and off, or display things, or hide things. So underneath, I could then disable. There's an option disable, and I'm going to disable the Smart Shape button 1. So what that does, it disables any interactivity. Okay, so this all looks pretty good. I'm going to save this as an action. And then I'm going to make sure that that particular action, and this is the trap I fell into last time, I didn't actually check that at all. So on enter of this slide, I'm going to run this script, which in turn is going to check this condition and do these actions if that condition is true. Okay, drum roll please, team, because we're going to test to see, make sure this works. Fingers crossed. It's always fun on the edge of your seat, making sure it works. Here we go. There's the value of that variable again, is 0. I'm going to click on the link. We're going to go through, blah, 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 which is great. Fast forward there. And clicking on the button now. Are we ready? And its value is dog. And there's your tick. Whew! sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There you go. There's the tickers work, and we have the tick appearing. So hopefully Michael has answered that question. Also, if I hover my mouse over that that menu item, I don't get the rollover happening. And if I click, I can't actually visit that menu item again. So it's up to you whether you want to turn that on or off. If you want to be very strict as to allowing people to turn that on or off, then by all means you can do that there. Now, it's very quickly to do the other options here. Now, obviously, the first action, all these actions are good. We want to duplicate the tick, so let's duplicate the tick, very similar to what we did before. Image tick 2, image tick 3. Now, because we're duplicating, the properties of hidden are also duplicated as well. So they'll all appear there. And we will just go in and have a look and see what advanced. Actually, before we go any further, I'm going to take this button, which is currently checking section 1 complete, and I'm going to copy that button, and I'm going to go to the end of section 2. I'm going to paste that here. And by the way, just when we test this, just so we don't have to go through these slides, I'm actually just going to hide these slides. So I can just right mouse click on them there and hide them, just to fast forward the testing process. Now, when I click on this button, I don't want to go to, I don't want to run the script section 1 complete. I'm actually going to create a brand new script. So very similar to section 1. So I'm going to, I've got 2 minutes left, I believe. So I'm going to create a new action, or I can actually even duplicate this action. So we've got duplicate action, and quickly section 2 complete. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to change, I'm going to assign section 2 with the value of dog. That'll do. And then jump back to that slide. Click on OK. And then click on close. And then, of course, what I want to do when I enter this slide here, I want to set up the menu, and I want to see if section 2 has, or if section 2 is equal to dog. So what I can do here is I can actually duplicate this decision point to save me having to fill it out again. So here's a duplicate decision. Just change that to section 2. And then if section 2 is equal to dog, I want to show image tick 2, and I want to disable button 2. So update that. Okay, once again, I'd like to do a quick test of that. I believe I've got 1 minute. Craig, excellent. I'm with you, Craig. Okay, so everything's so let's go to section 2 first. So I'm going to click on section 2. All is very well. Hopefully I did actually change that here. No, sorry, see that still says section 1. So this is a trap for young players. Section 2, just going to make sure that is triggering the section 2 script. Okay. Once again, look, the good idea to test, keep testing as you go, because then you can pinpoint the problem. Those who've done programming before, you know, you do a little bit of code, test, do a little bit of code, test, good question, Heather. We might have to hold. Look, I prefer to manage the audio in Captivate because if you try and do it from PowerPoint, sometimes there's a lot going on. So try and keep the PowerPoint as light as possible, and then do the audio management in Captivate. You've got a lot more control in Captivate anyway. The tick was appearing. Let's have a quick look and see why that's happening. What I want to do is section 2 complete. I actually want to assign section 2 with dog. I don't know why that was. Let's just quickly test that again. Close all these ones down. So yeah, a lot of the time is spent testing. Hopefully that tick doesn't appear again. Oh, there you go. Okay, so click on that. So I'm doing section 2 first, and fast forward, click there, and now we hopefully have the tick for section 2, and it's disabled. I can go back to section 1, and there we go. And look, there'll be, I'm going to do a little bit of an appendix to this, just to show you how you can add a little bit of extra functionality. But hopefully that's given you some ideas on how you can add a little bit of interactivity to what would be a normal PowerPoint, a linear PowerPoint. And you'll now notice I get the green tick. And look, 12:01, sorry I've run over time. Thank you very much for joining us. If anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Happy to take emails or get us on the website, etc., etc. So, team, is there anything else you would like me to share with you? Look, what I'm thinking, I will actually create a part 2 of this webinar, and we might actually roll that out in the next couple of weeks, because there is some pretty cool stuff, unfortunately I didn't get time to look at, and we'll expand on this particular webinar and this project a little bit further. But hopefully this will give you a little bit to play around with and have a bit of a test. And if you do hit any roadblocks or any hurdles, please reach out. I am happy to guide you through those and help you through those, and also to find out how you're working with it. And I'm also learning as well. So if you find an easier or quicker way to do something, let me know. Just as a little bit of a sorry guys. What I am actually going to do in the next webinar is I'm going to show you how to take these 2 actions, and we're going to actually create what's called a shared action. And this makes it a lot easier to create that extra functionality for your other sections, especially if you had, say, 10 or 20 sections here. Shared actions make it a lot easier and quicker to get that development up and running. So look, thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon, and look forward to hearing from you. And it's good night from me and him. And yeah, bye. What do I do now?